In the novel, Grand Duke Vernus committed terrible sins. Ever since young, he boasted of an invincible talent as a warrior, but as he aged, he became frustrated with the fact that his body was rapidly weakening. At that time, a secret society called Silver Blood approached the Grand Duke offering to reveal a method for him to regain his youth in exchange for a cooperation with them. That method is no other than eating someone of Vernus's blood. The dark tree created using the blood of a wicked ancient deity. If one nourishes it with the blood from someone from Grand Duke Vernus's descent, the fruit of rejuvenation will blossom. Especially when it's infused with the divine blood of an awakened, the effects will become much stronger. Thus, the Grand Duke sacrificed all of his illegitimate children, but the only one he kept alive was Morday. The reason was that he needed a battle weapon that is exclusively for him, and at the same time, he needed a substitute for the Grand Duke. The substitute for the Grand Duke doesn't necessarily mean a ruler who would govern a country. 500 years ago, when the gods left the mortal world, they passed down one obligation to their descendants. That obligation is to protect the seal of the Demon King, which can be achieved by borrowing the power of other gods. Once a year, the Grand Duke must engage in a one-on-one battle against the manifestation of the Demon King to protect the seal. Since the fight takes place outside the realm of reality, losing doesn't mean death. But as the power of the seal weakens, the Grand Duke will lose the right to battle the manifestation of the Demon King. This loss is equivalent to forfeiting his claim to the throne. That's why the Grand Duke needs a shadow who will perform this role instead. After that, we can see the conversation between the Archduke and Baron. Baron comes to the Archduke while he is about. They eat a fruit. He informs the Duke that Mord is leaving tomorrow and if he wants to meet with him. The Duke knows and tells that he doesn't understand what Ilden is up to as he is training with Mord every day and has taken Mord in the Gatekeeper Legion, and now suddenly he is sending Mord a valuable talent to the outside world alone under the pretext of the Gatekeeper Unit's secret mission. The Duke then smiles and says that it doesn't matter to him, as if Mord doesn't pledge his allegiance to him, he will rather eat him up before he grows stronger. By saying this, the Duke bites the fruit, and as he eats it, he gets a sudden increase in mana and awakens his divine blood. He then looks at Baron and orders him to go and catch Mord. Baron agrees to the order, and as he is about to leave, the Duke tells him to do his job secretly as Kessner is keeping an eye on Mord. Only those who have earned the Grand Duke's trust can enter this place, and among them, only those who can share the darkness embraced by the Grand Duke are allowed in here. However, Kessner is completely unaware about the existence of this place. Yet, he's the most trusted warrior by the Grand Duke. So Baron gets excited to do his job as he wants to prove that he is more capable than Kessner. Now back to the current situation, Baron is getting beaten by Mord one-sidedly. Anticipating the Grand Duke's attack was not hard at all. After all, Mord must be one of the two remaining illegitimate childs for him to use or for him to eat, considering the recent incidents of the disappearance of his illegitimate children over the past years. It's likely that he has already made contact with the Silver Blood, and now that he knows that Mord won't be loyal to him, he must have wanted to handle Mord as quickly as possible. At that time, he probably thought that sending a high-level warrior would be the best choice. Mord gets that the old shit wants to eat him. He gets mad and catches the collar of Baron and shouts at him saying that he will have to die now and the Duke Harden will also meet his miserable end by his hand. Baron gets confused to see the face of Mord and thinks if he really will be able to defeat the Grand Duke. Baron then recalls that Mord has used Aura Gauntlet, and he is just 15 years old. Baron has seen lots of genius, but he has never seen someone like Mord, who has an overwhelming growth rate, and his growth rate may be more than the Archduke. Baron gets that if he let Mord grow any further, he will be the demise of the Archduke, so he decides to give his all and finish him today. He then holds his sword tight and swings it hard. Mord sees this, dodges the sword in the correct time. Baron activates Blade Aura, which is a fatal technique that can be used against Vernus descendants who have achieved the stage of awakening their divine blood. Seeing this, Mord didn't panic as he can use Aura Gauntlet, which is no par with Blade Aura. So now the one with more aura will be the winner. Baron is so determined to kill Mord that he uses his own vitality to amplify his powers and rushed towards Mord. But even this power of Baron is no match against Mord. Mord uses his aura and infuse it with impulse balls and throws them at Baron. The impulse ball hits Baron, and a huge explosion occurs, frying Baron to crisps. Mord goes to Baron and punched him, making him into dust. The mage is seeing this and gets scared to see the power of Mord. As the mage is about to run, Mord notices it and rushes towards him and kills him by piercing his heart. Mord then takes out his hand and sees that his hand is stained with silver blood. Mord gets that the silver bloods are involved, and he feels uneasy because he cannot catch the mage alive. At that time, Mord senses someone, so he makes his fist and throws a punch in the air. He then said the person to reveal himself, as he is already aware that he is following him since he left the Grand Duchy. As there is no response from the man, Mord starts to throw punch aimlessly. Seeing this, the person tells Mord to stop and reveal himself. By seeing that the person had pointy ears, Mord gets surprised. They are a species that symbolizes longevity. They mature and age later than humans and have a longer lifespan, and the name of the species is elves. But from the size of the ear, Mord gets that this person is a half-elf. Mord then asked, "Who is he?" The half-elf replied that he is Kale, and he is from the Gatekeeper unit. He is also a member of the Shadow Wolf unit under General Ilden's direct command. There are a total of 5,000 from the Gatekeeper Legion in charge of the northern region's White Demon Realm. Their main purpose is to fight the demonification, so Vernar's divine blood descendants are the center of the force with soldiers that support them. The Shadow Wolf Squad is Ilden's direct affiliate special task force with the purpose of guarding their allies and assassinating their enemies. That is why they have a different skill compared to normal Vernar's warriors, and that's stealth. Kale gets surprised to see that Mord has seen through his stealth, which is the best within the Shadow Wolf Squad. After the introduction, Kale tells Mord that he is sent by General Ilden to escort him. Mord asked if he is really escorting him. "I was only going to help when you were in danger. I thought that would be better than fighting together from the get-go. I was thinking of securing an escape route." Kale says this to Mord. Hearing all of this, Mord tells Kale to prove him. Kale then shows a bracelet and tells him that the General Ilden told him to show this as a prove. Seeing this, Mord believes that Kale is actually sent by General Ilden. Kale asked Mord about the bracelet. Mord replied that this is the bracelet of General Ilden that he broke. Kale gets shocked to hear this. Mord then tells Kale to go back as he don't need an escort who creepily follows him around without introducing himself and does nothing when he is actually fighting. Kale tells he was looking for a good chance, and also he can't go back as this is General Ilden's order. Mord says that he has never received a mission like this and tells Kale to go back. Kale gets in a difficult situation, as if he gets back, General Ilden will be disappointed in him. Kale thinks of a way to convince Mord. He tells Mord that he will pay for everything in this trip, and not only that he will stand guard at night when he is sleeping, he will also do the cooking and do all the chores. Mord gets a bit soft, seeing that he wants to do all the things. Mord also recognizes the name Kale. He's a character from the novel. He was abandoned by his father because he was half-elf, and when he was at the brink of death, Ilden rescued him. From that point on, he was absolutely loyal to Ilden. When Aiden and his companions were fighting Ilden, he was a big help with his skilled stealth techniques and spirit magic. Kale's a very skilled man, but at the end he died as an extra. Kale looks young and rather feminine, but he is older than Mord and an expert in assassinations. Mord then thinks that from now on the blood of silver is going to ambush him, so it will be great help to have a companion like him. He then accepts Kale's proposal, and for his first task, he tells Kale to get rid of the bodies and erase their tracks from here, so that it's hard to follow them. After that, we can see this news has gone to the ears of the Archduke. But he misunderstood, thinking that it is the work of someone who is escorting Mord. The subordinate of the Duke asked him what they should do from now on. The Archduke said to let him be and just keep the tracks of his location. The subordinate asked if this will be enough. Archduke replies that in this battle, many Silverblood has lost their life and they are not an organization to let this slide away, so from now on, they will take care of this matter. On the side of Mord, we can see they have left the forest and comes in front of a huge gravestone. The both of them searched it for 5 days and finally they have found it. Mord then sits under a tree. Kale asked him that what will they do now. Mord replies that they will have to wait until it's dark. He also orders Kale to stand guard so that no one comes near here. Mord then sleeps and Kale stand guarding him. Time passes and now it's nighttime. Kale lights up a bonfire and sits in front of it and thinks that his life is so sad that he now has to work as a servant for a kid who is an intermediate warrior. Mord gets up and tells Kale to stay focused, and it is beginning. Mord and Kale sees that a dungeon appears at the top of the gravestone. There are secret dungeons in the novel that can only be revealed when all the conditions are fulfilled. This dungeon has 3 conditions. First, the moon has to be at least a crescent moon. Second, there must be nothing in the way of the moonlight shining down on Earth. Third, there must be someone with divine blood within 5 meters of the gravestone. Mord climbs the gravestone and stands there looking at the dungeon. This dungeon is very hard to find, but as Mord has read the novel, he finds it easily. The loot of this dungeon is the world fragment. Mord then jumps inside the dungeon by telling Kyle to stand outside and guard the area. Mord gets inside the dungeon and sees a crescent moon in the sky. The dungeon name is the Lunar Temple. There were many gods in the ancient times, but there are none remaining now. This lunar temple also used to be a place that used to worship countless gods of the night, although their names and existence have been forgotten now. Mord walks inside the dungeon and sees that tons of skeletons are coming towards him. Mord recognizes these monsters as warrior souls. The god they worshipped lost to another god and disappeared, leaving these warriors with only their insanity and their soul. Mord gets ready to fight the monsters and decides to finish them as fast as possible. These souls are scary in the real world because they cannot be stopped using ordinary methods. But in this world, it's possible. It's possible because of mana. Of course, that does not mean that they're easy to deal with, especially since these souls were warriors in their past lives. However, for Mord, it is easy as he is much stronger. Mord uses his aura impulse ball and gets rid of all the warrior souls in one go. Mord now walks forward in search of the Guardian. He sees a huge statue of a werewolf and gets that this is the core of the dungeon. He then sees that a werewolf is sitting under the statue. Feeling Mord's presence, the werewolf gets up and turns towards Mord and says that he will be offered to the goddess as a sacrifice. Mord looks at the werewolf and thinks that this Guardian was supposed to be a pretty powerful enemy in the novel. Even Aiden, who is stronger than most advanced mages, had a hard time against this werewolf. He was outnumbered, but magic did not work on these guys most of the time because of their goddess's blessing. But it doesn't matter to Mord, since I'm not a mage. Unholy invader, have you come alone? Disrespectful. But you seem to know the warrior's pride. Then we will treat you as a warrior, would the Guardian says this to Mord. At this time, many wolves and werewolves comes out and surrounds Mord. Hearing the speech of the Guardian, Mord asked him that if he means they will be fight one-on-one. Fights between warriors ape a sacred thing. You came here with the pride of a warrior, so we will respond accordingly, the Guardian replied. Mord finds this situation unfamiliar as it never happened with Aiden when he comes here with his companions. The reason behind this unfamiliar situation must be because he has come here alone. Mord then tells the Guardian that he also prefers a one-on-one fight, and he also hopes that they don't waste each other time. Hearing this, Guardian asked that does he mean. In the novel, the Guardian was resurrected with the goddess power each time Aiden and his friends killed it. So, Mord thinks that it would be better to just fight it starting from its 3rd phase. That's why Mord provoke it to transform it into its 3rd phase. The werewolf gets angry and asked Mord that how is he to order him to transform. Mord then awakens his divine blood. The Guardian feels the incredible mana of Mord and gets that Mord is also a divine blood holder. He then thinks that Mord is worthy of for his 3rd phase. The Guardian then sucks the power from his fellow werewolf brothers and gets more powerful. The size of the werewolf also increases. Mord didn't expected that it would grow this big. As the transition of the werewolf is complete, Mord rushed towards it and punched it with aura. But the aura punch of his gets blocked by the werewolf's mana shield, and this shield is the proof that this werewolf is a worshipper of a god. Mord then takes a step back and starts to throw aura punches. The Guardian takes all the punches, thinking that its shield will be enough to block all of them. But after a while, the shield breaks, and the werewolf was spent flying from getting hit by the aura punch. The werewolf feels that Mord is very strong. At that time, Mord comes in front of him and throws a punch at him. It dodges the punch and lands a clear hit on Mord's stomach. As the punch lands on Mord's body, the werewolf gets shocked to see that it has no effect of Mord, as the shock of the punch has been absorbed by Mord's muscles. Mord grabs its arm and throws it in the sky. He then jumps and punched it on the face. The werewolf flies away and hits the goddess statue and falls on the ground. Mord quickly goes towards there, and by using his lightning strike, he lands a huge blow on the werewolf's chest. Getting hit by this, the werewolf dies. Seeing this, Mord releases his divine blood state. At that time, a voice comes to Mord, which says he is amazing. Mord figures out that the voice is coming from the statue. The goddess then thanks Mord for granting his great warrior an honorable rest. Mord asked what it means by an honorable rest. The goddess tells that the Guardian wished to die honorably as a warrior, but he was stabbed in the back by the enemy and died. Unable to let go of that, he had become a ghost of this dungeon, and now Mord have gifted him the end he had wished for. Mord now gets the reason why the werewolf smiles when he fights with him one-on-one. The goddess then gives Mord a bracelet and tells that if he let that bracelet take in moonlight, it will protect the person he wants to protect when he wish. Mord looks at the bracelet and thinks that it will be quite useful for him when he wants to protect something. He then tells the goddess that he will use it well. At that time, the presence of the goddess has left the statue. Mord then moves closer to the statue and breaks it with one punch. From the broken statue, the world fragment comes out. Mord takes the world fragment, and the dungeon has been cleared. All the spirits that were trapped in the dungeon were released. Mord gets out and sees that Kale is sitting on a stone guarding this place. Seeing Mord, Kale asked if he has cleared the dungeon. Mord replied yes. Kale gets down from the stone and requests Mord to go on a village so that he can sleep. We've got a long way to go anyway. We'll stop by some villages and towns. Mord tells this to Kale. Hearing this, Kale asked him that where he is planning to go. Mord replies that he can't really say, since they will going to multiple places, but first, they will go around all over Lutvan Kingdom. Mord and Kale then goes to the commercial city of Reline. Kale is very frustrated and tells Mord that they should rest properly for a bit, as it has been 20 days they have left the Grand Duchy. Mord didn't care about Kale's word, he was in his own thought. In this 20 days, Mord has managed to collect 2 world fragments. After the Wolf Goddess dungeon, Mord attacked another dungeon, but there weren't any additional rewards like in the Wolf Goddess dungeon. But still, he was able to acquire the world fragment and artifacts imbued with divine power. There are 2 reasons Mord has come to Reline. One is to look for something in the Reline's black market, and the other is to clear the underground dungeon. After that, the both of them goes to an inn. Mord gets Kale to rest here until it's night, but Kale has his own plans, so he requests Mord that he wants to go outside. Mord lays down and tells Kale to go and quickly finish his reporting to Ilden, and he will waiting for him till sunset. Kale says that he is not going to report anyone. I already know that you make those reports every time we stop by a city. No need to hide it. If it had bothered me, I wouldn't have even brought you along with me. Mord said this to Kale. Kale gets surprised to see that Mord has figured it out. He also says to Mord that he has to go out to replenish his funds. Due to Mord's extreme appetite, Kale has lost all of his money and now he is completely broke, so he needs to gather some money, and for that he has to go outside. After that, Kale goes out saying Mord to stay quietly in this room and not to make a fuss. As Kale gets back, he gets shocked to see that the whole inn is on fire. At that time, Mord was still inside the inn, checking out the powers of the world fragments. The world fragments are pieces of the complete world that the ancient gods used to create this world, where each fragment contains different elements. Some contain lava fields where fire elementals can dance in, while others contain hot and desolate desert fields. These fragments were like puzzles, and unless they were fitted together, they exist separately. However, when they are combined, they possess immense power to be harnessed. Another remarkable aspect of the world fragments is that the acquired fragments become integrated within oneself, forming an imaginary world that one can access any time. When one's consciousness is projected, the imaginary world will almost look like the real world. That's why it will be possible to train physically, and the experience gained will be fully reflected in reality as well. Although other people may perceive it as someone just meditating, Mord sits in a lotus position and gets inside the world fragment. The first fragment Mord obtained from the war god's graveyard contained a massive mountain rising above the clouds, and the fragment obtained from the second dungeon contained a dense forest beneath a pale full moon. Luckily, the two fragments were able to combine, greatly expanding Mord's imaginary world. But unfortunately, the fragment he obtained after the wolf goddess dungeon didn't match and remained as a fragment. So the power Mord can draw from the world fragments and greatly increased, and he is curious to try it out. While Mord was inside his thought, he heard a lady shouting to help his child. Mord hears this and takes the child from the inn and gets out of there and safely hand over the child to his mother. Mord looks at the surrounds and sees that the whole area is in chaos. Seeing this, he gets angry and notices two men escaping. Mord sensed their magic power and gets that they are the ones who caused his explosion. Mord gets mad and decides to kill him. As the men are jumping on the roofs, Mord followed them and eventually caught up with one of them. He throws a punch, but the man dodges it and falls from the roof. As the man falls, he hurts his hand, and as Mord stands in front of him, he asked, "Mord, who is he?" Mord is extremely angry and tells the man there is no need to exchange their names as he will be death soon. The man shouts that he would never be defeated by a young lad like him. While the man was talking, Mord gets behind him and punched the man on the face and sent him flying towards a wall. The man hits the wall hard and shatters it. As Mord is about to finish him at that time, the man's companion distracted Mord. While Mord was looking at that, the yellow-haired man at that time, the other man eats some pill and gets bigger and stronger. The man then mocks Mord, telling him that a greenhorn like him will never beat him. Mord didn't give a crap about it and quickly kills the man by blowing his head with a single punch. The yellow-haired man gets scared to see him. Mord tells the yellow-haired man to get down. Seeing the angry face, Mord the man gets so scared that he cannot even run away. Mord then gives a flying kick on the man's back and sent him flying towards a wall. Mord slowly walks towards the man and tells him to kneel down and obediently answer all of his questions. At that time, Kale arrives at the scene and grabs the man's neck from behind and knocks him out. Later on, the man wakes up and found himself inside a house and sees Mord and Kale is standing in front of him. The both of them give an angry look and warns the man to only open his mouth when he is only answering their questions. Mord then asked who was the guy who was chasing him and if he is from the Second King organization. Hearing the name of the organization, the man gets shocked and he replied to Mord that he didn't know anything. Mord gets that the man is lying, so he punched his head and tells him to speak the truth. On the hand, Kale doesn't know anything about this, so he asked Mord what's the Second King organization is trying to do. Mord tells Kale that this organization is trying to revive the ruined King Archlick. The criteria for naming mages is crystal clear. Second circle's beginner-level mages, fourth circle's intermediate-level mages, sixth circle's advanced-level mages, eighth circle's senior mages, and those within the domain of the ninth circle are called top mages. The title Archlick is the name given to top mages who turn themselves into the undead, and they're called monarchs, to symbolize their command over the army of the undead. The Archlick of the returning monarch group had a secret backup plan in case he would be annihilated. He fragmented his soul into several pieces and sealed them, in a way that putting those pieces together could revive him, and the returning monarch group is looking for those fragments right now. Mord explains all this to Kale. He then teases the yellow-haired man, saying that he belongs to a pathetic group. The man bites Mord's bait and gets angry and says that he is not someone from a pathetic group. Mord then asked him about the identity of their group. The yellow-haired man gets a bit nervous as he figures out that Mord is from the Vernars bloodline, and if he tells him about them, the Archduke Vernars might turn his back on them. But in front of Mord's anger, the man has no choice but to reveal his group's identity. The man says that he belongs to a group named Gramolder. They are a group that aim to stop the 3 prophecies of doom for this world. One of those prophecies they are trying to stop is the returning monarch. The man also says that the returning monarch group is very powerful, as even if just the upper tiers of that group unleash their power right now, they could easily turn this whole nation upside down. And the archlick that those guys worship is practically a god of death, and if he is revived, this world will meet its end. Mord understands the situation, and he again asked him that why he was been chased by that group. The man replied that he has stole something precious to them. At that time, Kale takes out a ring and says that he found this in his pocket. The man tells that this is the item he stole, and it's the key to opening the doors to the underground ruins of the Archlick in this city. Mord is a bit confused, as in the novel, neither the group Gramolder nor this key made an appearance. In the novel, the Archlick was resurrected and was easily defeated by Aiden, so this might be the reason the name Gramolder is not mentioned in the novel. Mord takes the key in his hand and thinks that the Archlick was resurrected at the later parts of the novel. And even though the Archlick is defeated by Aiden, it took thousands of life as sacrifice. Mord decides to save all the lives, so he needs to defeat this group. Mord puts the key in this pocket and tells the man to leave quickly. Kale gets surprised and he asks Mord if he is really thinking of letting this guys go away. Mord says that their group is not strong, so he doesn't mind if he goes away. Kale again asked him that what he is going to go to the returning monarch group. Mord replied that he will crush them, but first he needs to destroy all the soul fragments so that the Archlick cannot be revived. Mord decides to go to the underground ruins to destroy the first soul fragment. At night, he can see Mord has come to the black market and looking for some item. He bought a cheap old dagger and a book. Kale sees this, and he cannot figure out that what Mord wants to do with them. Afterwards, the both of them goes to the gutter of the city. Mord tells Kale that in this gutter there is the hidden passage to the ruins. Kale said that he will never get in there to search that. Mord then tells Kale to use this spirit magic to find the location. Kale replied that he can't do that as he is an wind spirit magic user and he cannot use water spirits. Kale then uses his wind spirits and tells them to search for any markings. The spirits roam above the water, and after a while they found some marking and reports to Kale. The spirit blows a strong wind and water splits, revealing the gate of the hidden passage. The two of them goes there, and Kale inspects it and sees that it is a steel gate sealed with some magic. Mord then takes out the old rusty dagger, and with it, he cuts the plum of his hand and spreads his blood all over the dagger. Kale questioned Mord that what he is doing. A long, long time ago, the gods were at war with each other. In that war, the warrior god lost everything to the gods who used magic as a weapon. So he sacrificed his very existence to create this weapon. It's a mythical artifact that only those with divine blood can awaken. Mord tells this to Kale. After soaking on the blood of Mord, the dagger turns into a bright dagger. Mord instructs the dagger to summon anti-magic, and then he throws the sword on the gate. As the dagger pierced the gate burst open and the dagger goes to Mord's hand. Kale was so surprised that Mord has bought this mythical artifact with just the price of 1 beer. Mord then tells Kale that it is his time to fulfill his wish of going inside a secret ancient dungeon. Kale deals with Mord that he will teach him his sheath skill, and return for that, Mord will take him to secret dungeons. The two of them then jumps inside the gate and founds themselves at a huge place. As the two of them were waking, a bunch of ghouls come rushing towards them. Behind this bunch of ghouls, the members of the returning monarch group are standing and they are getting ready to take out the intruders. Mord rushed towards them, defeating all the ghouls. Seeing Mord getting closer, the three of them attacks Mord with sword, but Mord blocks them with his aura gauntlet. Seeing Mord using aura, the three of them get scared as they didn't expect Mord to be a master rank. Mord pushed the swordsman away. Seeing this, magic unit starts to launch their attack, but at that time, Kale uses his wind spirit and makes the magicians fly away. The one magician that is still standing looks back and sees that Kale is waiting for him with his wind spirits and a sword on his hand. It didn't take much time for Kale to defeat the magician. He quickly subdues the mage and kills him by stabbing his sword. On the other hand, Mord has put an end to all the other warriors, the room's floor filled with the bodies and blood of the returning Monarch group members. Kale then shows Mord the direction of the gate. The two of them walks and gets in front of the gate. Mord uses the key and opens the huge gate. As the gate opens, dungeonization energy comes from it. Mord tells Kale that the Archlick created this dungeon using demons so it reeks of demon smell, but it is not connected to the demon realm. In the novel, the information about this dungeon wasn't that detailed. So Mord only remember is that it's a building-like dungeon that goes underground, composed of a total of 9 floors, and the deeper you go, the stronger the undeads you encounter. It's not an easy dungeon, but it took Mord's party less than 10 minutes to defeat everything. Kale is very happy as he gets a ton of gold and expensive items. He carry the gold and all the item on a cart. And final, the both of them had made it to the boss room. As they walks in, that they see the Archlick is sitting on the throne wearing bright red cloth. Seeing them, the Archlick's eyes lit up, and it speaks up to them. Kale gets a bit nervous as the energy the Archlick is emitting is very strong. That guy is just a fragment of his soul, much weaker than his original body. At best, he's as powerful as an apprentice magician. Mord said this. Hearing this, the Archlick asked if he knew about him. "I've heard of a magician named Krex who used to be called Lord Archlick in the past," Mord answered. Mord further says that he didn't know anything more about him, and he also didn't wish to know more as he is a being of the past that has been destroyed. Saying this, Mord awakens his divine blood. The Archlick gets up from its throne and walks towards Mord. He tells Mord that as a Vernars who are remnant left by a earthly plane god are very arrogant, and that's why all of them had their demise in his hand. The Archlick starts to cast a magic. It gathers fragments of ice and joins them to form 2 huge ice golems. Mord gets ready to fight. He jumps, and with a single punch, he shatters the ice golems. The Archlick is mesmerized to see this. After finishing, the golems, Mord rush towards the Archlick and throws a punch at it. His punch gets blocked by the Archlick's defense magic. At that time, Mord stabs the dagger on the Archlick arm, and the Archlick's permanent defense gets destroyed, as an Archlick is entirely created by the power of black magic, so the dagger give a fatal blow to it as it has anti-magic. The Archlick gets a huge shock, and the clothes of the Archlick burns to ash. Mord then attacked the Lich with his mountain beaker. The attack lands on the Lich's shoulder and separates its head. Mord picks up the head and crashes it to powder. Mord releases his divine blood state and tells Kale thanks for accompanying him. Kale then asked Mord that, where is the core of this dungeon? As even after killing the Archlick, the dungeon is not clear. Mord replied that the throne the Archlick was sitting is the core. He then breaks the throne, and the world fragment comes out from it. This is the 4th world fragment that Mord has acquired successfully. After breaking the core, they return to the entrance of the dungeon, and just as it was described in the novel, the entrance of the dungeon was changed to a fake room. Kale gets surprised as he cannot find the cart where he put all the gold and magic items. Kale asked Mord if he know anything about this. Mord asked that it was a dream of chaos. Dream of chaos. It's a space composed solely of powerful information that blurs the boundaries between reality and dreams. Hence, everything was just an illusion. It's like virtual reality, where everything that happens inside feels real, but you can't bring out what has been manifested inside, like loot, into the real world. Seeing Kale so depressed, Mord tells him that as he has traveled with him for so long, he will properly compensate for it. Saying this, Mord punched the ground and it makes a hole in IT. The two of them falls and lands on a secret floor. Kale gets surprised to see that there is a hidden room like this. At the front of the room, there are some quite expensive items, and seeing this, Kale gets super happy. Kale starts to inspect the items, and he sees an ordinary bag. so asked Mord that what an ordinary bag like this is doing here. Mord says that this is not an ordinary bag, rather it is a subspace bag, and it can hold up to 5 times the size of this room. It also lets you search for and find objects that were placed inside after etching your mark on it. Further, there's also a security feature preventing others from touching it if they're not the owner, and if it's within close range, the owner can use telekinesis to move it back to their hand. Kale gets amazed by hearing the features of the bag. Mord then gives the ring to Kale and says that it is the Ring of Lightning. It's an item that can be charged with the user's mana and allows them to cast lightning-based spells. It's even embedded with spells up to the 6th circle. Moreover, it can exhibit formidable defenses against lightning attacks. Kale gets extremely happy and thanks Mord for giving such an impressive item to him. Mord says that he is giving him what he deserves. Kale then asked Mord about the other items uses. The necklace has a protective power against unauthorized magical interference and the ability to sense hidden magical energies. The golden key serves both as a physical key and as a map that can guide you to the place where it can be used. Mord tells all of this to Kale. Hearing this, Kale further questioned that if it's a key and a map, then could it be that there's a place with another piece of the Archlick monarch? Mord replied yes. Kale gets curious and asked Mord that how many pieces does the Archlick has. Mord replied that there are 7 pieces in total and they will be searching for all of them to prevent the resurrection of the Archlick. Mord also says that this is one of the reasons and the other reason that this 7 pieces are also the key to the world fragments. Saying this, Mord points towards the skeleton head and tells Kale that this is on of the 7 pieces. In the novel, Aiden and his party were unaware of this fact. They ignored this skull and dismissed it as a mere decoration, and as a result, the Archlick was able to fully resurrect. But now that's a tale of impossibility, as Mord crashes the skeleton with his punch. On the other hand, we can see the Archduke Vernars is eating the fruit, and this is the last one, so he asked his subordinate that if he thinks that the next person that will be buried here will Mord. The subordinate replied that it might be possible as the silver blood is officially on the move. While the world is teeming with secret organizations, those that have lasted for over 500 years are extremely rare, because it was during that time that marked the end of the world's myth and the beginning of the era of mortals. However, Silver Blood is an organization with a history of over 500 years. With the majority of its high-ranking members possessing the utmost power, being divine blood-bearers, it's the largest secret organization in the novel. The Archduke seems a bit interested to see that how much force the Silver Blood will send to capture Mord, as in the last time they get completely wiped away by Mord. After that, we can see that 2 people are tailing Mord. They had entered the underground dungeon while following Mord's track. By seeing the condition of the underground, the people gets impressed of Mord's power, and at the same time the 2 of them gets excited to battle with Mord. A few days has passed and Mord hasn't made a single step, so Kale asked him if he is going to give up. Mord replied that he is just kill the time. Mord is a bit puzzled as he had some gaps in the information he read in the novel. There have been many times where events were summarized as things happened roughly like this. Mord do remember the details vividly, but for some parts, like this dungeon, it was inevitable that he skipped over them in the story. While Mord is thinking this at that time, Kale speaks up and asked Mord that what he is going to do next. Hearing this, Mord blanks out and thinks that what he should do, as he has only 8 months left until the agreement he made with General Ilden. Mord don't have much time left, so he thinks that he should start by taking care of what he is sure of first without worrying about their movements. So he decides to go and free the cursed witch. Mord tells his plan to Kale and says that once they free the cursed witch, they will get an ancient sword. Hearing this, Kale asked him that how he know about this. Mord replied that he has a very excellent informant. Kale gets curious about the informant, so he requests Mord to tells him. Mord agrees to tells Kale. He tells him that the traces of the god embedded within him revealed a great prophecy that recorded the fate of this world. Hearing this, Kale gives an annoying expression and say that Mord is mean and dirty. Mord smiles hearing this from Kale. Mord knows that there is no meaning telling the truth to him, as he will never understand or believe it. But Mord also hopes that he could have at least a person that he can share all this stuffs. After that, the two of them starts their journey towards the cursed witch. A few days has passed. They have come in a remote mountainous region in the southeast of the Rutban Kingdom. The forest is all covered with a dense magic fog. Mord tells Kale that this is a magic fog that will make them disappear their sense of direction. As they were walking deeper, Kale shouts that if they are going towards the swamp, he tells Mord that there's an old legend in their village. It's the story of the witch of the swamp and the fog. The swamp is the place where the witch resides, a wicked being that uses the fog to capture and devour people. In their father's and grandfather's generation, there were a lot of disappearances. But in the last 5 years, people didn't venture deep inside, so there were hardly any disappearances. Mord, they says that the witch uses this fog to paralyze one's cognitive abilities and take control of your actions, making people do as she pleases. There's definitely a force attempting to interfere with my mind. Even though I look like this, I have excellent mental interference spells. Kale says this, and as he looks for Mord, he sees that Mord is not beside him. He gets that he has been affected by the fog. He starts to shout Mord's name, but there was no response. Kale starts to feel sleepy and is about to fall on the ground. Mord feels the absence of Kale, so he looks back and sees that Kale has lost his senses. He knew this could happen, so he beforehand charged the bracelet that he received from the wolf goddess. He wears the bracelet and goes towards Kale and grabs his hand and shouts, "Power of moonlight, protect my comrade." As he shouts this, the bracelet starts to shine, and after a while a huge bright light comes from it and surrounds both of them. Kale then regains his senses and says, "That is this how the witch devour people?" Mord replies, no. Annie tells him that they should safely get out from this fog. Kale asked Mord that of the witch is the one that eats the humans. Mord replies to Kale that the forest itself poses a lot of danger. Humans die due to the monsters, or they could even die while foraging for herbs, drawn in by the magical properties of the plants. People going missing is something that constantly happens. In fact, not having any disappearances for 5 years is what's more unusual. Hearing this, Kale asked if the witch is actually a good being. Mord replied yes, and says that the witch is not a monster who catches and eats people. Mord tells that witch was the most beautiful woman of the Ilderva tribe. Not only men from her tribe, but also men from neighboring tribes swoon over her. Her beauty captivated a large number of people, and among them was a man from a divine clan. The man from the divine clan confidently expressed his feelings for her. The girl politely rejected him, and that's the beginning of the disaster that befell the girl. The powers that that man from the divine clan possess is akin to a natural disaster. His clan was a formidable force among the divine clans at that time, and he was of noble standing within that clan. However, he defied his clan's taboo and summoned a demon spirit. Gradually, he became consumed by the influence of that demon, descending into madness. Fearing that his clan would find out about this, as he would certainly face death, that man ran away to a place beyond their reach and met that girl. As his proposal got rejected, he attempted to forcibly take her, prompting the entire Ilderva tribe to stand against him. In response, the man from the divine clan got more enraged and annihilated the entire tribe, and thus, girl fell into the hands of the powerful man from the divine clan. In that moment, the sky split open, and the divine being Marius appeared. The man was discovered by their clan's king because of his excessive use of power. The man from the divine clan pleaded for forgiveness and mercy, having heard of everything. That happened, Marius imposed a punishment on the man. Marius also gets angry on the girl for allowing someone from his noble clan to commit such a heinous act. So he placed a curse on the girl that until the day the spirit of the demon within the sword is vanquished and ceases to exist, she will guard it, and only then her sins will be washed away. Mord tells this story and says that the witch is just a victim of God's tyranny. He then awakes his divine blood and shouts out loud, "Witch, I'm here to give you back your name." As Mord shouts, an unknown entity responds to him. Then the area gets covered with an immense purple aura, which pushes them back. Mord uses his impulse ball on that creature. The creature with his two red eyes glares at Mord. Mord charges forward while dealing with the smoke like aura and cancels it. The area in front of him becomes somewhat clear. According to Mord, the unknown creature is the witch, and he tells the witch to wake up from her dream. Kale seems surprised as Mord regarded this creature as the witch. Mord tells the witch that she never had a promise that she needs to keep. The witch says that she need to keep her promise. The witch thinks Mord as an intruder and enemy, so she attacks them. Mord and Kale dodges the attack. Kale asks Mord what kind of attack is this because he is feeling as if a whole army of mages is running attacks on them. Kale asks whether Mord has a plan to handle the witch. Mord replies, saying of course. Mord conveys that he would beat that witch up before using the keyword to wake her up. By saying this, Mord jumps up and tells Kale to keep himself safe while he is gone. Mord moves forwards, piercing the aura in front of him. The witch is covered with a dark aura. Mord attacks the witch with an attack named Mirage Destruction. The witch screams while Mord speaks the name Ilderva and tells the witch that Ilderva is the name of her own kind that risked their lives and fought for her. Mord accumulates his mana on his leg and kicks the witch. The witch again screams. This time Mord speaks the name Calvis and says that Calvis is the name of the person who killed her family. Mord utters the name Mirius while attacking the witch. Mord reminds her that Mirius is the name of the god who cursed her. Mord concludes that there was never a promise that she needs to keep, it was just a curse put on her by the god Marius. Mord utters the word, remember. He tells the witch to remember the things she must not forget for the sake of her kind that died unnecessary deaths and for her own sake, while releasing another attack. In the next moment, Mord gets up on the witch's head and utters a name, Sedea. He says that's the name given to the witch by her family on the day the sun shone the brightest. Lastly, Mord tells the witch to open her eyes as she is the glorious child of the sun spirit. Upon hearing this, tears came out from her eyes. Kale notices that the attacks have stopped. Both Mord and Kale witnesses the transformation of the witch. Kale smiles as he has always looked forward to a wonderful story like this instead of the cold and depressed military life in the White Demon realm. The witch transforms into a human as they seize a human leg in front of them. The witch tells Mord that saving a witch that was cursed by a god and helping her regain her beauty. He is the savior of an unknown god's blood as he has freed the witch from the evil god's curse. The witch asks politely how she can repay Mord for this and wants to know her savior's name. Both Mord and Kale perceives that the witch tribes were all giants. Mord introduces himself saying that he is Mord, a descendant bearing the blood of Vernars, the god of combat. The witch says that she has never heard of any god like that, but she says that she would consider him as a very wonderful god because Mord is also a good person. Mord replies that God Vernars earned his divinity when the age of the legends came to an end, so of course the witch wouldn't know about him. The witch questions Mord what he meant by saying that the age of legends is over. Mord replies that, yes, it is over, and it has already been 500 years since then. He says that an era began where gods can no longer manage the world, and the only thing that remains of that age is this fragment world which is Mord showing now. What is this? The witch eagerly asks. Mord answers that it's a piece of the perfect world. The ancient great gods used to create this world. When the Age of Legends came to an end, it was split up all over the world. Mord feels that this one's environment is a foggy swamp region. Night skies and high mountain combined with thick fog below that floats over the swamps. Mord says that now the 3 fused pieces of world fragments and the 2 individual world fragments have come together. Mord tries to talk with the witch about his repayment, but suddenly 3 intruders barged in. The leader of the group threatens Mord that they has come here to kill him. The 3 intruders tells Mord that will capture him today and bring him with them. The boss of the intruders sees the huge giant lady and asked Mord what is that thing. Mord didn't respond to his question, rather he asked them if they are from the Silver Blood. Hearing that Mord know about their identity, the intruder boss gets a bit surprised and questioned that how did he know about them as this is their very first meeting. Mord replied that he figures it out from the divine blood they possess. The intruder find it a bit strange, so he again asked Mord that how does he know where they are from just by seeing that they possess divine blood? The lady in their group says not to bother so much about it, as they will eventually know all the things when they captures him. As the two of the subordinates are about to rush towards Mord, their boss stops them and tells them to awaken their divine blood and go all out from the start. The red-haired boy disagrees and says that there is no need for that, and he also wants to have some fun. The boss gives an angry look and tells them not to underestimate it, as there might be other people beside them. Hearing this, the two of them didn't argue anymore and awaken their divine blood. The boss also awakens his divine blood and turns into a werewolf. He orders them to go and capture Mord without killing him. Mord sees their awakening and figures out that the boss is from the beast god lineage, and he cannot figure out the other two's lineage, as all the divine blood transformation is same, which turns one's hair to silver. On the other hand, Kale is scared to see that the three of them has divine blood. The lady is an intermediate officer in silver blood, a high-ranking mage of the 7th Circle who has abnormally excellent tracking abilities. However, in her awakened state, her magic power rises to that of the level of a first-tier mage. But for a mage to be able to unleash their full power, they need allies to cover them, and that person is the red-haired boy with the blue sword. Mord then orders Kale to get Sadia out of here and then come back and join him. Kale refuses to go and tells Mord that even he is super strong, but going against 3 divine blood would be too much for him. Mord awakes his divine blood and shouts at Kale to quickly go away with Sadia. As Mord awakens, the intruders gets impressed to see that a 15-year-old boy has this amount of mana. As Kale and Sadia is about to leave at that time, the lady blocks their way and says to Kale that even though his stealth technique is good, but he cannot escape from her eye. Seeing that the escape route is blocked, Kale tells Mord that now they should fight them with their lives on the line. Mord replied to Kale that he will create an opening for them. So whatever it takes, they should quickly get out of here, as this is their problem, so they can't let Sadia be involved in this. The red-haired man they uses an advanced impulse technique called the Impulse Edge and rushed to attack Mord with it, the two of them. Clashes, and a huge explosion occurs, and they gets covered in somke. As soon as the somke clears, Kale and the intruder boss get super shocked to see that Mord uses his aura gauntlet and smashes the head of the red-haired boy and kills him in a spilt of seconds. The fighting between the two parties starts. Kale is barely holding himself against the lady using his wind magic. On the other hand, Mord has already killed one of the intruders, and now he up against with their boss. The werewolf says to Mord that he didn't expect that he could use aura, and so from now on he will treat him accordingly. Saying this, the werewolf starts to vibrate and radiating purple lightning from its body. Seeing this, Mord gets a bit nervous, and at that time the werewolf launched an attack on Mord. Mord blocks the attack with his arms, but the strength of the attack was so much that he was sent flying, and he hits the ground hard and cracks it. The werewolf didn't stop there. He again rushed towards Mord and launched an attack with his purple lightning. As the lightning hits Mord, a huge explosion occurs, and this time gets hurt, and he lays down on the ground. The werewolf then stands in front of him and says that they have formed this unit in a way that they would overwhelm him. Mord looks at the werewolf and thinks that he's stronger than he expected. Mana, size, physical prowess, and speed, he's ahead of him in all of those. Moreover, he also has an artifact. God's item, artifacts. When the mythic age ended and the gods departed from the mortal realm, artifacts disappeared from this world. However, those with divine blood, who can wield divine items to a high degree, can temporarily use artifacts with the permission of the gods. Seeing the surprised face of Mord, the werewolf laughs and says that he wonders how much he can hold up before the power of the gods. Mord is far behind in comparison of strength with the werewolf, so he decides to draw powers from the 3 merged world fragments, and on top of that, he will also use the war god's body blessing. As planned, Mord uses all of this, and his mana has rise to whole new level. He attacks the werewolf's chin with all this mana. Getting hit on the chin, the werewolf flies away and spits blood from his mouth. Mord jumps in the sky and goes towards the werewolf, and as he is about to throw another punch at that time, the lady attacks Mord with her Skyfang technique. The attack lands on Mord's back, and he falls on the ground. He then looks back and sees that the werewolf and the lady has come together. Mord cannot understand why the lady is here, so he looks at Kale's side and sees that he is being chased by the reinforcements of the Silver Blood. Mord is currently injured and is laying on his knees. At that time, the werewolf uses his artifact and rushes towards to finish Mord. As he is about to land an attack, he gets stopped by hearing the screams of the lady. As he turns back, he sees that the lady's leg is broken and is on fire. The giant lady is the one responsible for this. The giant says that she didn't interfere before because Mord didn't want her to. But she cannot just watch idly while her benefactor is getting beaten. She gets angry and looks at the lady angrily and uses her fire to surround them. Seeing the angry giant, the lady crawls on the ground out of fear. The giant stands up and said that we, the Ildervas, share divine power amongst ourselves. The more of us there are, the weaker we are individually. However, I am currently the sole lineage of the fire spirit. I'm the strongest I could ever be. By saying this, the giant lady starts to radiate intense fire, but as she walks forward, she feels a huge headache and falls on the ground. She is also unable to use her powers. Seeing her status, Mord understands the situation. The reason she cannot use her powers is because the age of legends has ended. Sadia is now someone that should not exist here. For someone like that to use a god's power, she needs to pay with something, but now she has nothing to give in this moment. Mord then tells her that there is no need to push herself as he will be able to handle the boss. He also tells her to go and help Kale. Sadia feels uneasy about it, but assures her that he will be enough to beat the werewolf. Mord seems to have a plan, as he seems confident that he can go against the werewolf. All divine bloods have their own unique traits. The unique traits given to those of God of Combat's bloodline is strength comparable to a weapon, and this man's trait is that his impulse is imbued with lightning. Its advantage is its great destructive power. As Mord is building up his power, the werewolf rushes towards him. Mord's attack is ready, and it's a new technique called the Thornbush Forest Keeper. The werewolf's power is a great match for the Thornbush Forest Keeper, which mixes with the opponent's impulse to lock their movements. As the attacks hit the werewolf, he became freeze, unable to move his body. Mord then goes towards the werewolf and starts to punch him. Mord is using a technique of the Vernars called the Void Breaker. This technique focuses the power of constant punching into one explosive punch. The werewolf gets confused as the punches of Mord is not affecting him, but after a while he feels that the power of all the punches is gathering in a single spot. As the powers gathers on a single spot, the werewolf bursts, and his flesh spread all over the ground. Mord emerged victorious in this intense fighting. On the other hand, Sadia and Kale is fighting the reinforcement unit. The two of them gathers all the unit members in the middle, and Sadia uses her fire and surrounds them and burns them to ashes, and the rest of them were killed by Kale. Mord then walks towards the lady, and he also kills her. After the battle is over, Kale asked Mord that why did he kill the lady. Mord sassy that the higher-ups of the Silver Blood has bans. If they try to expose important information, the ban activates and turns them into enraged monsters. Hearing this, Kale says that he knew they were dangerous, but he didn't accept them to be so cruel. Mord then asked Kale if he was aware of the Silver Blood. We come across them sometimes in the White Demon realm. They're dangerous guys, so people like me in the higher ranks receive some basic information on them. Kale replied this to Mord. Mord understand it as the Vernars is also a very powerful family, and they have excellent informants, so it is a basic thing that they will know about the Silver Blood. Kale cannot get that, how Mord knows so much about the Silver Blood, so he asked Mord about this. I'm sure I've told you, it's because I was shown a great prophecy through the traces of the god left in me, Mord replied. Kale speaks up and says that no one will believe in this. At that time, Sadia asked Mord that if some other divine power and the god of combat Verners show you such prophecies. Mord replied yes. After that, Mord walks towards the corpse of the red-haired man, and he picks up the blue sword and gives it to Kale. Kale gets happy as this sword is better than his own. The three of them gathers all the corpses into one place, and Sadia set fire on them. She said that she will also seal it, as if they burn the corpses here, they will be easily tracked down. Mord and Kale is amazed to see her godly powers as they have never seen this before. After the sealing, Sadia asked Mord that how can she repay him. Mord says that he wants to take the sword that she is protecting. Sadia says that it is a cursed sword. Mord tells her that he already knew that and he also know how to uncurse it. Sadia asked him how. The reason that sword is dangerous is because of the soul of a strong demon within it. It's a weapon with its own consciousness, so it lures the owner with power to turn them insane. In the end, it pulls the owner into ruin. If so, then I just need to invade the sword with my own consciousness and get rid of the soul. Mord says this to Sadia. Hearing this, Sadia asked if it is possible to get rid of the demon in the sword. It wasn't back in the time when you were cursed. But after such a long time has passed, its consciousness should have weakened, Mord replies. Mord then thinks in this mind that it's actually a proven method. Aiden got rid of the curse in the very same way. Plus, during the battle, he felt that the second level of the divine blood opening isn't something that he can reach through training or talent. He did observe Kessner and Ilden since they've reached that level, but this battle has made it clear. He need to accomplish something great. What a human needs in order to become a god is an achievement great enough to be recorded as a legend. Proving yourself worthy is the only way to reach that realm. Only a meaningful battle and victory will bring light and glory to the divine power one possess. Mord had gotten closer to that realm with the battle today. He obtained a meaningful victory against 3 people of divine bloodlines and ones that had reached the second level at that, and now Mord decides to kill Vikalos, the one who brought the entire giant race to ruin in the blink of an eye. Upon kill, Mord will take one step forward to be even closer to the second level. Mord then tells Sadia to put his consciousness into the sword. As Mord's wish, Sadia puts Mord consciousness in the sword. After that, Mord finds himself on a desert. He then shouts out loud and says to Vikalos that he has come for him and tells him to show himself. Vikalos hears the words of Mord and he gets happy as he thinks that he can finally escape from here. Vikalos then reaches hand towards Mord and tells him to sign a contract with him, and he can provide him with powers that will let him dominate the whole world. Mirius, the king that rules over the countless gods, he sacrificed his own bloodline to create a sword. The sword was meant to be a vessel to seal Vikalos. Vikalos was such a powerful being that even Mirius would have struggled to defeat him, so sealing Vikalos was a great feat for Mirius. So as now Mord has come to him, he wants to possess Mord and take his physical body back. After that, he will kill Mirius who sealed him here, and later he will establish himself as this world's demon king once again. But Mord knew about the plan of Vikalos, so he rejected his tempting offer, saying that his plan of gaining his physical body will not be accomplished as the body of his no longer exist. Hearing this, Vikalos asked Mord that what he means by that. Mord says to him that after Mirius sealed him here, both the demon realm and the world were faced with great changes, and his empty body was devoured by the other demons. Mord further says that he is just a soul without a body, and a soul that has been far from its body is bound to disappear. In other words, he is going to die sooner. Hearing this, Vikalos gets furious and throws a tantrum. He threatens Mord for tells such a nonsensical lie to him. Mord swears on his life that he is speaking the truth. Vikalos didn't believe on him, and asked that if he know that swearing and lying in front of the demon king means death. Mord replied that he know about this. Hearing this, Vikalos tells that he is arrogant and he will regret this. After that, Vikalos casts some sort of spell. A grim reaper appear behind Mord and his neck, hands, and legs were tied up with a chain. Vikalos then again asked Mord to tell the truth. Mord again repeats that Vikalos' body is gone. After that, Vikalos begin to witness the scene and he sees that tons of demons is fisting on his body. Seeing this, Vikalos breaks down and fall on his knees. Mord walks towards him and asks that, how did he feel witness the truth? Vikalos, it is amazing that he was able to protect his psyche for thousands of years, but once he realized that his body no longer existed in the world, his mind was completely broken by the shock. Mord grows huge, and now Vikalos is like an ant in front of him. He then crashes Vikalos with his feet and kills him, as Mord successfully uncursed the demon sword. Kale takes the sword in his hand and gets very excited. He wishes to take the sword to see, asked Mord, that what is he going to do with him? Kale thought that Mord would give it to him, but Mord's reply breaks his heart as Mord tells him that there is someone who is the rightful owner of that sword. Mord takes the sword and puts it inside the subspace bag. Kale asked about the identity of the rightful owner. Mord replies that he won't know even if he tells him, and he also tells Kale to stop his greed as he'd just receive a nice sword. Mord then asked Sadia that what she will do now. Sadia replies that she is not sure as she is a being that should not be here. She also don't know when she might die. Plus, she has nowhere to go, and no chance for revenge. As Sadia was about to speak further, Mord stops her and says that there is a chance for her to get her revenge as Mirius exists in this world as a member of the Silver Blood. Hearing this, she gets shocked and asked, "How is this possible? He'll look much different than what you remember as it seems." Lot of things happened between your sealing and the end of the Age of Legends. Mord tells this to her. She understands what Mord said, and she tells that if he still exists in this world, then there is a reason for her to be here too. But as this world denies her existence, so she have no choice but to seal herself until the time comes. She tell Mord that she will be sealed once she enter this door. She requests Mord to hold on to the key of the seal for her. Mord and Kale seems a bit confused. Sadia tells them she has become the strongest witch of her kind, and she is sure that she can kill a god. But there is no point to such power if she die before she can even use it. So she requests Mord that the moment he enter a fight against Mirius, he should undo her seal and allow her to get her revenge. Hearing this, Mord asked her if she is sure of it. Sadia replied that yes, getting her reply, Mord promises her that he will make this happen no matter what. On the Silver Blood Castle, we can see Mirius is enjoying his wine and laughing. Seeing this, his subordinate come and asked for the reason of his laughter. Mirius replied that he felt his power be set free, and it's been a very long time since he felt that. In a place covered in swamps and fog, there were still traces of your power in this world. Then why did you leave it be instead of retrieving it? His subordinate asked. Mirius tells him that he might have died if he tried to retrieve it. So he had planned to retrieve the sword and the fragment once he had recovered some more. But it seems like someone has done the work for him. Hearing this, his subordinate asked, "Isn't that a loss then?" He replied, "No," and says that he is rather thankful as now when he goes to retrieve his sword, he can avoid seeing someone he didn't want to see. Mirius then takes a sip of his wine and says that he intends to give that person a reward. On the other side, as Sadia is sealed in the gate, Mord and Kale goes somewhere, and there Mord smashed a mountain cave, and as they entered there, they see a golden chest. As Mord opens it, they found some items in it. Kale asked Mord about this, and he replied that these are the 6 relics left behind by a great mage from ancient times. Mord then takes a red bracelet and gives it to Kale. He further tells Kale that this bracelet will help him summon a fire spirit, and he should be able to control it as he can use fire magic. Kale seems surprised, so he asked Mord that if it is possible. Mord replies that it's a relic made by a great mage who possessed divine powers, and a god's authority can make the impossible possible. Mord gives this bracelet to Kale as he sees him as reliable teammate, so he wants him to grow into a strong mage who can control both wind and fire spirits. Kale then asked Mord that what is he going to do with the rest. Mord replies that he has already thought whom he will give them to, and he taking the ring which function is to lets the owner detect ambushes and other sudden dangers and activates a power of protection. He will also take the bracelet that will let him store some mana for later. After that, the two of them goes to a restaurant, and they were eating and talking to each other. At that time, a waiter comes to them and asks them if they are mercenaries.